Hello everyone and welcome to the Researchers Hub. Today in this episode 3 of Student Life Connect series, we are bringing another inspiring stories for our students and young engineers. Today we have with us Dr. Suraj Abdan, someone who has truly achieved excellence in both academia and industry. He had held positions like Head of Research and Development Department and led many innovative projects during his tenure at Kirloskar Pneumatic Company Limited, Pune, India. He has also done his Masters from IIT Bombay and completed his PhD from City University of London, UK. So, welcome Dr. Suraj. It's a pleasure to have you with us on this Researchers Hub.
Thank you, Dr. Abhishek. Thank you for having me on this wonderful platform, the Researchers Hub, where you allow all the leaders and the experienced people to share their experiences with you as well as with this audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Suraj. So moving ahead, we'll talk about Dr. Suraj's experience and his prior background before joining into the industrial PhD. So to start with, Suraj, before joining your industrial PhD, you were doing your Masters in IIT Bombay. So how was your experience prior to joining IIT Bombay and your learning and key takeaways from this IIT Bombay's Masters?
Yeah, the journey started with the curiosity. I was always curious about how machines work, and that drove me to take a decision that I should be doing an engineering graduation in mechanical. And after I completed my graduation in mechanical engineering, I took a job in an industry, cement industry, where I could see the real world of engineering, where I saw multiple mechanical machines like gearbox, belt drives, cement mills, and there I could understand and see what are kind of failures and how they have failed instead of how to repair them. So that is the curiosity that drove me to take that decision. And continuing with that curiosity, I thought that this knowledge is not sufficient, so I should pursue higher education in mechanical engineering, and that is why after continuing in the industry for 3 to 4 years, I decided to go for higher studies, and that is when I took a decision took an admission in IIT Bombay in the specialization of thermal and fluid sciences. So that is how I got myself into IIT Bombay, and while doing my master graduation in IIT Bombay, I worked with real machines in the refrigeration and cryogenics area, where I applied my learnings then and there, which I could get from the classroom trainings, and also with the passionate professors and the brainstorming sessions that I could have with my batchmates. I could indirectly or directly implement those during my learnings on the machines, and that is how I learned and grew with the experience that I had from IIT Bombay.
Thank you, Suraj. I think that's quite fascinating to know about your journey after your bachelor's, how you worked with an industry and then you joined for the master's program in IIT Bombay. So that's great to know. But after completing your PhD, master's, you then went on to do an industrial PhD.
Right.
So what motivated you to again pursue into this academic line and in parallel work for the industry?
Yeah. So if you closely look at any master graduate program, it is a very time limited program where you understand some part of theory and then apply it in the real world. But if you have to go deeper into the science and engineering and understand and apply those theories into the real world problems, so one must have higher education. And the difference between an academic PhD and industry sponsored PhD is quite a huge difference. So if you look at academic PhDs, basically the extension of the scientific knowledge, and whereas an industry sponsored PhD is at the intersection between science and business, where you have limited time available, but that bridges the gap between the innovation and the feasibility. So that is why I thought that let's have an industry sponsored PhD, go deeper into the science and have some applications of that understanding into the product. So I took a decision and I got the opportunity to do industry sponsored PhD, and that is why that was one of the best experiences and the opportunities that I could get.
That's quite well to know about it. So we know that every PhD has some challenges. Like when we talk
Correct.
about full-time PhD also, students think like it's not my cup of tea.
Correct.
So what were your challenges you faced during your industrial PhD?
So you can classify any PhD journey in three phases: the initial phase, the middle phase, and the end phase. So initial phase is when you try to find out the problem statement for your PhD, right? So when that is the time when you do literature survey, you interact with your supervisor and try to narrow it down to a single problem statement with which you can work on. But in my case, I was fortunate that since it was a PhD, it was an industry sponsored PhD, the problem statement was already identified. So I did not face any major challenge during the initial phase of my PhD. However, in the latter part of the PhD, the second and the third phase of the PhD, where the actual application, understanding of the problem statement, going around that problem, looking at multiple methods and methodologies to work around the solution on that problem, and trying to validate your research area or the research with some experimental validation. So the experimental validation was the toughest part during my PhD, and one must validate his or her assumptions that they are working on with some assumptions. So those assumptions need to be validated either through experimental learnings or through some simulation platforms. Unless and until you validate your research, it does not qualify to become a good research. So I must say that whoever is pursuing PhD must also work on the validation part of their work.
Yes, thank you, Suraj. And what about time management? Because we all know that in industrial PhD, you need to manage time for the industry's work, plus your university, and you also need to give some spare time for your family.
Correct.
So what are your key takeaways on this time management?
So usually on a daily basis, I used to divide my time into three zones. One is the creative zone, where I work on the creative thinking, in which area I should focus on PhD also, and in the day-to-day activities of the job. The second part of the time where I used to focus on the collaborations, whether you are doing PhD or whether you are working in an industrial environment, you always you must collaborate with your peers and supervisors. Then only you can find better solutions, have a better and different perspectives about the thoughts that you are working on. And the third and the last zone which I would always dedicate is to my family, as well as also you need a rest, because most of the times taking a break will always give you some newer ideas which you can think that is the most or innovative ideas that you can implement. So break and rest and family time is also very important in your planning.
Yes, that's quite interesting to know how you balance the time.
Correct.
So now, since you have completed your PhD, so what's your key, how does this PhD has helped in your current leadership role?
See, many people think that PhD is about knowing everything, but that is not actually true.
Yeah.
PhD is about learning how to learn. Okay, understood. So that is the learning that I take from PhD, and that is what I try to instigate within my team members in office. So whenever they approach me with a problem, I do not give them the ready-made answers. I always ask some probing questions. I always direct them towards the solution, and that builds a very open environment and creative environment, and that provokes a thought within the team members to go deeper into the problem statement and come up with very creative solutions. So that is how I try to implement the learnings that I had during my PhD with the work.
Thank you, Suraj. So now concluding with the final questions. So finally, Suraj, for our students watching, what simple advice would you like to give them from your own journey?
Yeah, I would give only one advice. Don't rush success, build depth. As Peter Drucker said, the best way to create the future is to build it. And one must pursue curiosity, question, and then only creativity can come out of it. That is the only solution.
Thank you, Suraj, for sharing this wonderful advice to our students, and also thank you for sharing your experience so openly on this platform. I sure this experience will definitely be helpful for our students. So thank you, Suraj. And for our audience and students, so you can just pin it in the comment box. What are your key takeaways from this podcast? So see you again in the next episode of the Student Life Connect series. Thank you all.
Thank you.